Welcome back, everybody, to your daily update on the state of the Malazan Empire, or in this case, mostly Darujhistan. Well, I guess we're really in the end game now. I just finished reading chapters 21 and 22, and yeah, shit is about to hit the fan, or already did, so there's that. Apart from that, yeah, let's do this for now. I got more ideas, like I'll start Dust of Dreams on Thursday, and I got some other stuff going on. I've recently started rereading The Hobbit because I want to do some like Tolkien related shit in the near future, so there's that. And if there's other things that you feel like I should tackle or whatever, then just put it in the comments and I'll probably try to do it. We'll see. I also have some ideas about like more thematic videos on Malazan in the near future as well. Anyway, let's get this over with, right? Cheers. All right. So let's go through this sort of thematically, I guess, and let's see where we're going with all of this. Harlow, Bellum Nom, Venaz, that whole thing. Harlow makes it out, and that's great. It's still kind of interesting to figure out why Bellum Nom is doing all the things he's doing, in a way, but maybe he's just a nice guy. But once again, I think it struck me how, like, when we have Vena's point of view, it struck me how, like, how very much he's already, because he's forced to grow up, like, seriously, both Bainisk and him are, like, still kids, but they behave like adults, and not very good adults, because, they are forced to by their circumstances, which are obviously working in a mining camp, and child labor does that to kids. And he is like what I said. He was completely trapped in the system there, and he just tries to, become a bit better at whatever, and to be accepted, and that his skills will be watched by Gorlas Vidikas, and so forth. Whereas Bainus, as we spoke about yesterday, he never stopped dreaming. But with Venas, he just thinks inside that system. And I feel an important aspect here today was when Venas like thinks about why he hates Harlow so much. And it's like Harlow thinks, and like he dreams that Harlow thinks of himself as better than anyone else and always nice to others, and he feels patronized, basically. That's what it is in the end. He feels patronized. Maybe he also inherently feels that Harlow is maybe smarter than him or whatever. That's a different aspect, but mainly it's about patronizing, and that's like a very important thing that we often, I guess, underestimate in a way. It's like how much kindness, how much niceness can actually come across as patronizing and thus as wounding. And in this case, it's like from a, like, I guess in general, it comes from any kind of discrimination. It's a positive discrimination, but it's still the same thing. It's like, it's something that I will obviously struggle with myself on a whole other level, but I feel there's a connection there. It's like when you feel that someone is being nice to you because they pity you, or feel that they are better than you but they don't want to show it, or something like that is something that hurts incredibly. It hurts incredibly. And I obviously have that issue sometimes when people try to help me and I don't want them to help me because I try to do things by myself, and then because of the disability. And I realize how irrational that is from time to time. But I feel that, on the other hand, it's sort of the same thing there on a classist, from a classist perspective. Venas knows he's like one of the lowest of the low, right? But he thinks for some reason, that Harlow is better, and being kind to him is just him being patronizing. So I kind of get the hatred there, and I feel it's important to be aware of such things in general, because as long as there is this stratification within our society, and some people have more privilege than others in a way, those people with less privilege will always feel patronized if they're like, I don't, yeah, their presumed betters are just nice to them. Yeah, which is once again a problem that comes from this idea of like how, for example, stuff like capitalism have like gone through our entire society, that everything is just an exchange. And we need to come back to that again and again and again in the Malazan Book of the Fallen, like how everything is an exchange, not always an even trade, but is always an exchange. You don't get something for free. There ain't no such thing as a free lunch. Well, maybe there is, but there should be. Which comes back to that theme, basically, just like freewheeling it here, what we spoke about like 2 or 3 days ago, well, 2 or 3 days ago, probably on Friday, when we were talking about the Tist Andy, and that they don't bargain when the people from Pale and so forth came to Anomander and said like, hey, we need help to fight with to fight the Malazans, and Anomander said like, yeah, we'll do this, and it's not about bargaining. And I feel that sort of comes down to the same thing, because the Tist Andy don't bargain. They decide to do something because it's right or wrong. And for someone who is not in that mindset, who is in that human mindset where everything is contractual, or almost everything is contractual, everything is about exchange, you can't imagine that someone is just nice to you because they're nice people. No, there has to be something in it for them to be that. That whole thing loops back to the discussion, or like the conversation that what's his name, Ganaras Paran has with Silver Fox outside of Kapustan at some point, was about empathy and compassion only work when they're given freely and are not about an exchange. They are not about getting something in return. And if you're just nice to someone because it makes you feel better, that might just be too much of an exchange already for it to be like valuable. I mean, it's still, it still helps in a way, but it's not like completely free. And sometimes being the recipient of something that feels like the other person is just doing it to make themselves feel better really hurts, and really can turn people into irrationally angry people. That's happened to me, and I totally get it why it happens to Venas. Although I don't think, and that's, I guess, is the difference there, is like Harlow is not in a position where that is the case. He just really is a nice person. Like there might possibly be the idea that Harlow is smarter, slightly more educated or whatever, and has that edge over Venas, but that's like a small thing. But so my point here is that I understand Vena's emotions. I just feel they're wrong, like on an objective level. But once again, we are in the position that we have like sort of both characters' points of view, so we know that he's wrong. But Venas doesn't know that, and being in that world, like being so stuck in that world that he is, in that world where everything is about an exchange, about climbing those walls within that brutal system, how can he actually step out? He's basically forced to think that way. And that, I feel, is the issue there. All right. Next bit. Let's stay more on that topic for a moment. Cornus Viticus, before he dies, because has that like a couple of thoughts when he's meditating about how he is just someone who really gets all the things he wants because he actually dares to go out and do these things, and he has the skills and he has the will to actually achieve things. He is the pure neoliberal individualist personified, and yes, that's an ugly personality, and it's something that we have in our cult of the individual in general, and especially when you combine it with neoliberal, like late stage capitalism, is very much this, like, the things you get in life are deserved just by virtue of you being able to grab them. And that leaves morality, obviously, completely throws morality fully out of the window. It even goes beyond the idea of that perfect rogue that what's his name, David Hume constructs in his moral philosophy, where he's like, if fear of getting caught is the only thing that you know keeps us from doing stuff, doing, like, going against the law, is someone who manages to never do that and break the laws and break the rules, but never fully never gets caught, but also never harms a specific person. How evil is he? No, this goes way beyond that. This is the and I totally just misrepresented a theme from David Hume. I'm sorry. I wouldn't need to read up on it again, and I can't be bothered right now. This just came to my mind. Point is, no, Gordas Viticus is way closer to Donald Trump when he's like, yeah, I could shoot someone in the street and people would still love me. I would still get away with it. He's the kind of person who just, yeah, he's a fucking dickhead, and he makes his own success at all costs the justification for his success. And that's a devilish circle, and we should all take a lesson from that and, like, maybe not be like that, because it is wrong, and there are such things as absolute, not real absolutes, but there is such a thing as good and evil in the world. It is there in a way. Often it's bland, but some things we should maybe just actually accept. And as I recently read in another book about I keep forgetting the quote, but it was basically we should grow up, and if we're over 15 and still think Ayn Rand has the right ideas, we should probably do something about that. Like not read Terry Goodkind, for example. Anyway, my point being there that yes, he encapsulates that ultra libertarian, neoliberal, Rantian asshole. So yeah, just wanted to point that out for a moment. Now let's look at, and this is, I guess, a good place to actually switch over to that. Let's have another look at Kellor, because Kellor is kind of the same and kind of not. Like, Kellor also believes that he has the right to everything that he can grab, and he's been doing that forever and ever and ever. He also obviously feels wronged by the universe because of that curse that he got and so forth, and I'm not going to go more into that right now, the justifications of that. No, what I want to look at is something else, and that is the cost, the personal cost for him. And there's like a few lines there when he shows up and meets Spinok Durav, and Spinok stands in his way, like, yeah, I can't let you do that, and so forth. And Kellor says, like, does anyone ever ask what this does to me, to be that eternal symbol? And that, I feel, is a very, very important aspect there, because what Kellor is very much was forced to be because of that curse. He was forced to be that symbol. He's way more a symbol for eternal failure than anything else. He's no longer, like, the person Kellor kind of, is very much defined by being that symbol. So he's kind of dehumanized by it in a way. And we rarely see the human kellor behind all of that. Now the question is, like, there's like two questions. One of them is, was that curse on him, was that justified? And I'm not going to go into that detail. The other question, obviously, is, does kellor, despite that curse, does kellor actually have a choice? Like, could he change and be a different man, leave the throne, leave the hunt for that eternal throne, like just leave it, let it go, and decide to, you know what, fuck it? Can he do that, or not? Is that something that is theoretically possible, or is that something that, because of that curse turning him into an eternal symbol of failure, he has to fail, he has to do things and fail in them? And I feel, once again, we should have more compassion with kellor, because that thing, like being turned into a symbol, is never a good thing. It always means a loss of humanity in the eyes of others, and that goes for both directions. You know, if you're like a symbol for positive change or for something positive, it also means that people see the symbol and no longer the person, and that can brutally damage anyone, I guess. And I feel that's an important aspect to keep in mind with kellor. Is like, he has very few choices, and the question is how many of those choices were taken away by that curse, and how many of the choices were taken away by everyone else accepting that he is that cursed person and turning him into that symbol of eternal failure. I feel that's, yeah. Anyway, I just feel sad for kellor, even though he is a dickhead in Memories of Ice, and he could certainly work on his manners. But you know, he's got his reasons. All right, now let's have us a look at Hood and what happens there. You know, when our favorite ichthyophobic racist from Providence said, and in strange eons, even death can die? Well, Stephen Erickson just goes and, like, yeah, he can, and he does. And so that's how Hood first becomes a flesh and blood, well, mostly flesh, not that much blood in him anyway, manifestation, and then, like, the person himself walks out and then lets himself be killed by Anomander Rake. Although he might have had second thoughts at that point, but then it was too late, because Rake just beheads him and puts him into Dragnipur, which is brutal. But on the other hand, and this is the thing that we'll probably need to figure out in the future, so I'm not going to talk about that. There's a sort of theory right now that I am going to leave until tomorrow, because I know there's stuff happening in those two chapters that are still missing that is necessary for my theory, and I don't want to spoiler anything, so here we go. Anyway, Hood comes to Dragnipur. He meets with Draconis, and I feel that scene is very powerful. But right before that is another scene that I felt was like even more powerful, and that was the scene where Draconis talks to Pearl, that demon from Guardians of the Moon that is collecting all these bodies of the people that can no longer drag the cart. And what I found interesting is that scene where Pearl says that he's sorry that this is ending, because what Dragnipur did, and that eternal, like, flight from chaos did, was unite all these terrible enemies under one purpose that they all can agree to, and that is in fact a beautiful thing. And he's got a point there, but it's still, like, to be able to see that is very impressive. Which, you know, once again brings back that whole theme that demons, at least a lot of the demons in the Malazan world, are far better humans than the humans in that story. On the other hand, obviously, and I feel that's another thing that with Dragnipur is important, that eternal flight from chaos, which would be oblivion, obviously symbolizes death. Either death or, and this is like the other thing because it's mostly about willpower, you could read the eternal flight of all these people there from the oblivion. You could look at that as a metaphor for like something like dementia, because it's inevitable that their perceptions of themselves are torn apart by chaos. It is inevitable and it's coming, and there's nothing they can do about it, which is absolutely tragic. All right, sorry for the cut. My camera did something weird. It may just be that the sun is too warm for it. We'll see how long this goes. Anyway, what I wanted to talk about is the whole idea of the army of the dead fighting against oblivion, and maybe some of those dead are actually, looking forward to oblivion, because we already found out that being dead doesn't mean anything happening. You just lie around in hoods around forever and ever and ever, and that's that bit. And I feel it's important, something really important happens here with Hood, and Hood's definitely worth his own video at some point. But the important bit there is between Hood showing up in Darujhistan, doing what he does in Darujhistan, and then entering the sword and talking to Draconis, we get a few very important hints about Hood. One of them is that Hood is not exactly happy with his job, because, as we already know, Hood is the god of death. He's the personification of death. And death, as we obviously know, is often meaningless. There's no justice involved whatsoever. It reaches each and every one. There's a lot of, death is the great leveler, as they call him, or any other of these wonderful terms. Death just happens. So the personhood, who was a Jackhard, or is still a Jackhard, became the personification of a principle of nature. And we can only start to imagine what that means for him as a person, to live with that fact, to just be that. Now, the question is why he did that, and I'm not going to talk about that because right now, not a thing we're going to talk about. But we see that he's rebelling against that role from time to time, and that obviously reminds me of Death in the Discworld novels. We have a similar situation, I guess, in a way. But yeah, we have that scene with that guard, and he's like, fuck it, this once I will not be impartial. I'll just, give you your life back. Go do something good with it. And there once again comes that theme of the family, of the importance of a working family for children to grow up in a proper way. And yeah, but he does that. It's a sort of rebellion. He's like, oh, fuck it, I don't want that. And then when he is in Dragnipur, and Draconis like, what will happen to all the dead now that you are in here and everything? And he's like, you know what, let the gods sort this out. I don't want to do this. That's not my job anymore. And yeah, I guess that's an important aspect to the character of Hood there. Once again, I think he has another motivation for what he's doing there. But that one I will keep until tomorrow. What else was there? Right. The sort of kind of start of the redemption of Monkrat, who is picked up by Spindle, who is, recognize him as a Malazan deserter, and commands him to help him do something simple and good by saving the children from the camp. Which once again, and I feel that's an interesting discussion there, with it's just a small moment when they talk about why Moncret deserted, or like how some people mentally kind of break under the toll of being a soldier, and like bad stuff happening in war, which is inevitable. But on the other hand, how it actually is important to, and this I feel is the big things, like how doing right as a soldier, being, you know, yeah, how doing right as a soldier, and is important because that sort of armors the soul. The uniform that is also armor for the soul, because you know that even though you kill people, and that's obviously something that leaves a hell of a lot of damage, but you know how that happens. You know how you still how to say, as long as you know you're doing something good, that kind of keeps the pain from doing like violence away in a way. And how you lose that, how when you lose that, you lose a lot more than just you know that, than just like the moral high ground or something like that. Anyway, what we also should talk about is like the other bit in Darujhistan, that scene about all these deaths, and where we jump from one to the other, and that one once again I feel is really well done. It's like it's a powerful scene. We have all these like short moments of people dying, and the way Erickson jumps from scene to scene, and we see how a lot of terrible people die, other people are saved through their deaths, all of that, and how there's like these small moments of humanity, especially with that scene with the demon that was dancing with that man. And I don't know, those are those moments where I really like, that really touch me. Not, you know, I mean, also the big ones, but this one's like this. Yeah, that man was happy in those situations, and the demon was kind of happy. But now that the gaff is broken, the demon is even more happy when she can dance all the way home. So yeah, I just felt that aria, and also like the way you have like the introduction to it by Krupp, when he goes and says that we should all judge for ourselves is only if all these deaths are meaningless. That was very powerful. The other thing I feel we need to point out is shortly before that, when Envy and Spite get into fighting each other and just tear down all the stuff around them, I feel is once again, that's a powerful metaphor for how people with a lot of power, in this case obviously two ascendants, how people with a lot of power, with a lot of yeah, power, just forget or don't care about people that don't have that kind of power. I mean, they want to. They could just go and just punch each other in the face as long as they want, but they use their magic and all their other powers, and that does a lot of collateral damage, which, you know, once again is obviously something that we see with people in our world who have a lot of money and power, who have, or like corporations that have a lot of money and power, like countries that have a lot of money and power, when they struggle over something, even if it's not actual war, it will still cause a lot of collateral damage on the outside. And those people, or yeah, those people in power, they often just don't care. They don't realize it, or they just don't care. And I feel that that scene with Spite and Envy is a very, very powerful image for that disregard of powerful forces when it comes to everyday people. All right, I feel that's sort of most of it for today. I'm pretty sure I've missed a bunch of things. Especially, I mean, there's more with, you know, Ninander dying now and all of that. But I am not quite sure yet if it may just make more sense to actually come back to that tomorrow when more has happened. I just feel like one thing is important there, that Nimander realizes that he has also blood of dragons in him, because obviously he's the son of Anomander Rake, and he needs to kind of own that, or take ownership of that aspect, and that can then help him find at least Aranatha, and probably also the others in a way. And I feel that's an important aspect, but I will come back to that aspect tomorrow, I guess, because tomorrow's going to be the end game. All right. I hope there was something interesting in this for you. If so, then let me know what, and put it in the comments. Drive up that sweet engagement. Not really. And I'll talk to you tomorrow about the rest of Toll the Hounds. Until then, cheers.